I received the termination email during our company's holiday gala. The same night I was publicly accused of fraud in front of 300 colleagues. My name is Claire Bennett. I was 32 years old when I became both a villain and a whistleblower in the span of 24 hours. 5 years earlier, I had walked into the gleaming headquarters of Vertex Capital Partners with nothing but student debt and a Stanford degree. First-generation college graduate from Columbus, Ohio. Working-class parents who borrowed against their mortgage to help with tuition. I promised to make it worth their sacrifice. The 58th floor had a view of Manhattan that made the city look like a complex financial model itself. Patterns everywhere, if you knew how to look. I started as a junior analyst in the financial engineering division. Cubicle near the bathroom. 80-hour weeks. I brought my lunch every day and saved 60% of each paycheck. My team built fraud detection systems based on blockchain infrastructure, immutable record-keeping, tamper-proof by design. My specialty was pattern recognition algorithms. Show me enough data, and anomalies become obvious, like constellations against background noise. By my 3rd year, I was promoted to senior financial strategist. My own office. Team of 6 reporting to me. I still brought my lunch from home. The first red flag appeared during a routine audit of Series C investments tied to Middle Eastern sovereign wealth funds, a transaction timestamp that didn't align with server logs. Most people would miss it. I didn't. 3 more anomalies surfaced within a week. All minor. All dismissible in isolation. Together, they formed a pattern. Like looking at a distant galaxy. Individual stars invisible, but the cluster unmistakable. I documented everything and scheduled a meeting with my direct supervisor, Michael Chen. His office was 3 times the size of mine. Floor-to-ceiling windows, awards on floating glass shelves. He listened intently as I explained the discrepancies. "This is concerning, Claire. Good catch. I'll take it to compliance right away." His voice carried the perfect balance of authority and appreciation. 2 days later, nothing had happened. No investigation opened. No follow-up questions. I emailed Michael again. His response came after midnight. "After consulting with senior leadership, we've determined these are legacy system artifacts from the Meridian acquisition. Nothing to worry about. Focus on the Qatar portfolio instead." Something felt wrong. I nodded in the hallways, smiled in meetings, started working later than usual. Not for the company, but for myself. I created a parallel investigation system on my personal encrypted drives. Every night for 6 weeks, I downloaded transaction logs, cross-referencing timestamps and authorization codes. The pattern grew clearer. Someone was siphoning funds through a sophisticated network of shell companies. $8,600,000 over 3 years. Not enough to trigger traditional alarms in a company managing billions. Just enough to stay invisible. Almost invisible. The transactions all shared microscopic fingerprints. Identical rounding patterns. Consistent time intervals. Repeated IP addresses from supposedly different entities. The fraud was elegant in its subtlety. I traced the approvals back to their source. 4 senior executives were involved, including our CEO, Catherine Roth, the woman whose autobiography sat on my bookshelf, whose leadership philosophy I had quoted in my job interview. I didn't want it to be true. Rechecked my findings 17 times. The evidence only grew stronger. Truth doesn't disappear when you look away. While conducting my investigation, I made 3 strategic decisions. First, I backed up all evidence on encrypted drives stored in 5 separate locations. Second, I enhanced the logging protocols within our system to record any attempt to delete or alter the data. Third, I prepared a comprehensive report for the board's audit committee. I knew the risks. Whistleblowers rarely emerge unscathed, but I believed in systems more than people. In accountability, more than hierarchy. On December 18th, I submitted my report to the audit committee. 342 pages of meticulously documented evidence. I included my contact information for follow-up questions. None came. 3 days later was our annual holiday gala at the Mandarin Oriental. Open bar, ice sculptures, Manhattan skyline twinkling through floor-to-ceiling windows. I wore a simple black dress I'd owned for 5 years. Nursed the same glass of champagne all evening. At 9:37, Catherine Roth took the stage. Sleek red dress, diamond earrings that caught the light like warning signals. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Before we continue celebrating, I need to address a serious situation. The room went silent. 300 people holding their breath. It appears someone among us has betrayed our trust. My heart rate didn't change. I had expected this, prepared for it. Claire Bennett, would you please join me on stage? Conversation stopped. Glasses froze midway to lips. I placed my champagne on a nearby table and walked toward the stage. My heels clicked against marble, each step echoing in the silence. Catherine put her arm around my shoulder. The scent of her perfume was suffocating. This woman has been orchestrating a financial scheme that has undermined our international operations. As of this moment, she is terminated from Vertex Capital Partners. Security guards appeared at the edge of the stage. My company keycard was deactivated in front of everyone. My personal items from my office were presented to me in a cardboard box. I didn't defend myself, didn't argue, just took the box and walked through the crowd. Former colleagues stepped aside, creating a path to the exit. No one made eye contact. No one spoke. Just silence and the distant sound of the city below. In the elevator down to the lobby, I checked my watch. 9:43 p.m. I had anticipated this exact scenario. At 9:30, a timed email had been sent to every board member and major shareholder. Encrypted evidence packages with instructions for access. The more Catherine attempted to erase my findings, the more her actions would confirm them. I stepped into the cold December air, handed my box to a homeless man on the corner. There's a tablet and noise-canceling headphones in there. The rest you can discard. I took the subway home, sat between a nurse ending her shift and a student with textbooks. Normal people with normal problems. I was now something else entirely. At my apartment, I made tea, opened my laptop, watched as login notifications confirmed that board members were accessing my evidence. One by one, like dominoes falling. By midnight, 7 board members had viewed the files. By 2 a.m, all 13 had accessed them. I didn't sleep, just watched the logs and waited for morning to arrive. The city lights blinked outside my window. I had just lost my job, my reputation, and possibly my career. Yet somehow, I felt more certain than ever before. Data doesn't lie. People do, and I had the data. My alarm went off at 5:30. I had slept for 90 minutes, showered, made coffee, put on my navy suit, the one I reserved for critical presentations, battle armor of the corporate world. At 6:15, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered without speaking. Ms. Bennett, this is Richard Atwood, head of the audit committee. His voice was cautious, measured. We've reviewed your materials. The board has called an emergency meeting for 8 o'clock. Your presence is requested. I didn't ask questions, just confirmed attendance and ended the call. They had accessed my evidence packages. Now they needed to hear it from me directly, exactly as I had planned. While most of Manhattan was still waking up, I was reviewing my presentation. 117 slides, each meticulously prepared. No emotion, no accusations, just data, transactions, timestamps, authorizations. The numbers would speak for themselves. I took the subway to Vertex headquarters. No taxi, no special treatment, just another Monday morning commute. The security guard at the lobby hesitated when I approached. My access had been revoked less than 12 hours earlier. He made a call, received instructions, printed a temporary badge with visitor in bold red letters. The board is waiting in the executive conference room, 48th floor. He wouldn't make eye contact. The elevator felt smaller than I remembered. Mirrored walls reflected a woman I barely recognized. Dark circles under determined eyes. I straightened my posture, adjusted my collar. The evidence was on my side. At exactly 8 o'clock, I walked into the conference room. 13 board members seated around a massive oak table. 5 executive team members, including 3 implicated in my report. Catherine Roth sat at the head, fingers interlaced, knuckles white with tension. The chief legal officer whispered something in her ear. 2 empty seats remained. One at the opposite end from Catherine. One beside Richard Atwood. I chose the latter. Strategic positioning. I needed allies, not opposition. Ms. Bennett, Thank you for joining us. Richard's tone was formal, but not hostile. In light of the materials you've provided, we've convened this session to hear your direct testimony. Catherine interrupted. Before we proceed, I want to remind everyone that Ms. Bennett was terminated for cause. Her allegations appear to be retaliatory and without merit. Richard continued as if she hadn't spoken. You have the floor, Ms. Bennett. 30 minutes. I connected my laptop to the presentation system. No technical difficulties. The first slide appeared, a simple timeline of transactions. I began without preamble. Over the past 3 years, $8,600,000 have been systematically embezzled from Vertex Capital through a network of shell companies. This presentation will demonstrate who took the money, how they did it, and why our standard detection systems failed to identify the theft. For 28 minutes, I walked them through the evidence. No emotional appeals, no dramatic revelations, just methodical deconstruction of a sophisticated fraud scheme. I showed them transaction logs, authorization codes, IP addresses, electronic signatures, server timestamps. The fraud was designed to stay below regulatory thresholds. Individual transactions never exceeded $200,000, spread across multiple funds and jurisdictions, always obscured by legitimate business activity. I clicked to a slide showing 4 executive profiles: Catherine Roth, CEO; James Mercer, CFO; Eliza Washington, Head of International Operations; Victor Cruz, Chief Technology Officer. Their names appeared beside their respective authorization codes that matched those on the fraudulent transactions. These 4 individuals authorized every suspicious transaction. When confronted with preliminary findings, they dismissed them as system artifacts. When I submitted my report to the audit committee, they attempted to discredit me publicly and terminate my employment. Catherine's face had lost all color. This is absurd. You've manipulated this data to frame us. Where's your actual proof of intent? I had anticipated this exact question. Click to the next slide. At 9:45 last night, immediately after my termination, someone attempted to delete all transaction logs from our secure servers. Our blockchain infrastructure prevented this. Here are the access logs showing the deletion attempts. The screen showed login credentials: Catherine Roth, James Mercer, admin access, failed deletion attempts, timestamps from the previous night, during and immediately after the holiday gala. Furthermore, at 11:27 last night, someone attempted to remotely access my personal files. The intrusion was logged by my security system. The IP address traces back to Mr. Cruz's home network. The board members exchanged glances. Richard cleared his throat. Ms. Bennett, how can we verify that you haven't fabricated this evidence? Every transaction is recorded on our blockchain ledger, immutable by design. I've provided access keys in your information packets. The data can be independently verified by any third-party auditor. Catherine stood suddenly. This is preposterous. She's clearly manipulated. Richard cut her off. Ms. Roth, please sit down. Ms. Bennett's evidence warrants thorough investigation. I remained calm. I've also provided evidence that my termination was retaliatory. Email exchanges between Ms. Roth and Mr. Mercer discussing how to handle the Bennett situation date back to 3 days after I first reported my concerns. For the next 2 hours, the board questioned me. Technical details, specific transactions, verification methods. I answered each question directly. No embellishment, no speculation. Just facts. At 11:35, Richard asked Catherine and the implicated executives to leave the room. The tension in their departure was palpable. Catherine's final glare contained equal parts hatred and fear. The board deliberated for 43 minutes. I sat quietly, reviewing my notes. When they invited me back, their decision was unanimous. Ms. Bennett, the board finds your evidence compelling and deeply troubling. We are placing all implicated executives on immediate administrative leave, pending a full independent investigation. We would like to reinstate your employment effective immediately, with a temporary assignment to assist the external auditors. I accepted with a simple nod. No vindication, no celebration. This was never about personal victory. By 3 o'clock that afternoon, news of the executive suspensions had leaked to the press. CNBC ran the headline: Major fraud investigation rocks Vertex Capital. CEO and top executives suspended. The stock began its descent. Investor confidence shattered in real time. I worked with the external auditors for the next 48 hours. No sleep, minimal food, just data analysis and evidence compilation. By Wednesday afternoon, the independent investigation confirmed every aspect of my report. The fraud was even more extensive than I had initially discovered. $10,400,000 in total. The market response was swift and merciless. Vertex Capital's stock plunged 37% in 2 trading days, from $186 to $117 per share. The financial media called it the Vertex collapse. While most saw disaster, I recognized opportunity. During the previous 3 years, I had invested wisely. Early-stage tech startups, conservative index funds, a small real estate portfolio. My net worth was modest but strategically positioned for liquidity. On Thursday morning, I contacted my financial advisor. Liquidate everything except the residential properties. I want to move on Vertex stock immediately. He hesitated. Claire, the company is in free fall. This isn't the time to catch a falling knife. The fundamentals are sound. The fraud has been exposed. The corrupt leadership removed. The market is overreacting. My tone left no room for debate. Execute the trades as specified. By Thursday afternoon, I had purchased 400,000 shares at an average price of $119 per share. A substantial position, though not yet influential. On Friday morning, the board announced formal termination of all implicated executives. Criminal investigations were opened. Regulatory bodies launched their own inquiries. The stock stabilized briefly, then continued its decline. I purchased another 600,000 shares, now holding 1 million shares total, approximately 4% of the company. Significant, but not controlling. Over the weekend, I prepared a strategic recovery plan. 72 pages of detailed analysis and recommendations, compliance overhaul, leadership restructuring, transparency initiatives. I emailed it to Richard Atwood late Sunday night. His response came within 30 minutes. The board would like to discuss this with you tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Monday arrived with a sense of inevitability. I wore a charcoal suit, simple pearl earrings, hair pulled back, professional but not ostentatious. I arrived 15 minutes early. Richard was already there. Before the others arrive, I should inform you that several major institutional investors have been buying Vertex stock during the crash. They've reached out to the board with concerns about leadership vacuum. I nodded. I'm aware. I've been monitoring the trading patterns. What you may not know is that these institutions have specifically mentioned your name as a potential stabilizing force. He studied my reaction carefully. Have you been in contact with them? No, but competent analysts recognize patterns. They see what I saw. A fundamentally sound company temporarily destabilized by isolated corruption. The other board members arrived. 12 people with combined centuries of corporate governance experience. They looked exhausted. Crisis management takes its toll. Richard opened the meeting. As you know, we face an unprecedented leadership crisis. Our executive team has been decimated. Investor confidence severely damaged. We need immediate stability. One of the directors, Eleanor Winters, spoke up. We've received communication from several institutional shareholders, representing nearly 20% of outstanding shares. They've expressed confidence in Ms. Bennett and suggested she play a significant role in the recovery strategy. Another director frowned. Ms. Bennett is relatively junior. Talented, certainly, but without executive experience. Richard cleared his throat. There's something else you should know. Over the past 3 trading days, Ms. Bennett has acquired a substantial position in Vertex. Combined with the institutional investors supporting her, this represents approximately 24% of voting shares. Silence fell across the room. I remained expressionless. This wasn't about power plays. It was about necessary correction. Eleanor spoke again. Our options are limited. We need someone who understands the company's systems intimately, someone who has demonstrated unquestionable integrity, someone the market can trust. The discussion continued for 2 hours. Alternatives proposed and dismissed. External candidates considered and rejected. The crisis required immediate action, not prolonged search processes. Finally, Richard turned to me. Ms. Bennett, would you be willing to serve as interim CEO while we stabilize the company and conduct a formal search process? I had prepared for this question. I would accept the position permanently, not on an interim basis. The company needs certainty, not temporary leadership. The board members exchanged glances. Not surprise, resignation. They had limited leverage and knew it. We would need certain assurances, Richard said carefully. A detailed recovery plan. Regular board updates. Transparency on all major decisions. All reasonable requests. I've already prepared a comprehensive strategy document, which you've received. Implementation can begin immediately. The vote was taken. 11 in favor. 1 abstention. No opposition. At 11:17 on Monday morning, exactly 1 week after submitting my initial fraud report, I was appointed Chief Executive Officer of Vertex Capital Partners. Within hours, the announcement went public. Whistleblower appointed CEO after exposing executive fraud. The stock jumped 12% in afternoon trading. I moved into the executive office that same day. Catherine's personal items had been removed, but her presence lingered. Heavy furniture, dark color scheme, imposing desk position to maximize power distance from visitors. My first executive order was to replace it all. Open floor plan, glass partitions, collaborative workspace, physical transparency to match our new operational transparency. By the end of my first week as CEO, I had implemented 17 specific reforms. Whistleblower protection program with independent oversight. Blockchain verification for all transactions over $50,000. Executive compensation tied directly to ethical compliance metrics. Open source publication of our fraud detection systems. The market responded positively. Our stock recovered to $163 per share. Not complete recovery, but substantial progress. More importantly, a new foundation was being built. One based on systemic integrity rather than personal authority. I hired a new executive team. Diverse, qualified, thoroughly vetted. People whose expertise complemented rather than mirrored my own. I didn't need loyalists. I needed truth tellers. At the end of that first month, I stood at the window of my office. The same Manhattan skyline I had admired as a junior analyst. The same patterns of light and structure. But now I saw it differently. Not as an outsider looking in. Not as a junior employee looking up. But as someone responsible for protecting the system itself. 6 months into my tenure as CEO, Vertex Capital had transformed. Our stock price had not only recovered, but exceeded pre-scandal levels. $217 per share. 27% higher than our previous peak. The financial media called it the Bennett Revolution. Catherine Roth and her co-conspirators faced federal charges. Securities fraud, wire fraud, money laundering. Their trial was scheduled for the following spring. I was listed as the primary witness. My testimony would be factual, unemotional, just as my leadership had been. I received regular updates from the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit. The stolen funds had been traced through 17 jurisdictions, 6 shell companies, 3 private banks in Switzerland, Singapore, and the Cayman Islands. Recovery efforts were underway. I didn't expect to see those millions again. Money was never the point. The real victory was structural. Our new compliance framework became an industry benchmark. 12 major financial institutions adopted versions of our blockchain verification system. The SEC cited our whistleblower protection program as a model for regulatory reform. Harvard Business School published a case study on our transformation. I declined their interview requests. This wasn't about personal recognition. My office remained minimalist. Glass walls, standing desk, no status symbols. No barriers between me and my team. I started each day walking the floors, learning names, understanding processes. The distance between leadership and operations had been the company's original vulnerability. I wouldn't recreate it. On a Wednesday morning in June, exactly 1 year after I'd first discovered the fraud, I received a visitor, Michael Chen, my former supervisor who had dismissed my initial concerns. He had resigned during the scandal's aftermath. Now he worked for a competing firm. Impressive what you've built here, Claire. He gestured at the transformed office space. I always knew you were talented, but this is unprecedented. I didn't offer him a seat. What do you want, Michael? I have a proposition from my current employer. They're willing to offer you twice your compensation package to bring your expertise to their organization. I studied his face. The same confident smile. The same practiced charm. Some things never change. Not interested. His smile faltered. At least hear the numbers. 7 million annual salary. Equity worth potentially 30 million. Full autonomy over compliance systems. The answer is still no. He looked genuinely confused. Why? You've proven your point here. You've won. What's keeping you at Vertex? I walked to the window. Manhattan spread out below. Thousands of buildings. Millions of people. Countless systems interconnected. This was never about winning, Michael. It was about fixing what was broken. Not just at Vertex, but in how business is conducted. That work isn't finished. After he left, I reviewed the quarterly projections. Our transparency initiatives had initially scared away conservative investors. Now they were returning. Trust rebuilds slowly, but it rebuilds. That evening, I received an email from a junior analyst in our Singapore office. She had identified potential irregularities in a client's trading patterns. Nothing conclusive, just anomalies that warranted investigation. She had sent her concerns directly to me, utilizing the open communication channel I had established. Previous leadership would have considered this bypassing the chain of command. I saw it as exactly how the system should work. I replied immediately. Good catch. Initiate preliminary investigation protocol. Resources authorized. Keep me updated directly. 1 year earlier, her observation would have been dismissed or buried. Now it received immediate attention from the CEO. This was the true measure of our transformation. The following week, I testified before a Senate committee on financial sector reform. No cameras allowed. No press statements. Just honest assessment of systemic vulnerabilities and potential solutions. The problem isn't individual corruption, I told them. It's systems that enable corruption to remain hidden. Fix the systems, and individuals adapt accordingly. Some senators nodded. Others took notes. Most seemed skeptical. Change comes slowly to established power structures. I didn't need their immediate agreement, just their consideration of a different approach. Back at Vertex, I continued building. Not an empire, not a legacy, a framework. One that would function regardless of who sat in the executive office. One that valued integrity not as a marketing slogan, but as an operational imperative. The business press speculated about my long-term plans. Some predicted a political career. Others suggested I was positioning for acquisition by a larger firm. All missed the point. This wasn't a stepping stone. It was the work itself. On quiet evenings, I sometimes thought about that night at the holiday gala. The public humiliation. The walk through silent colleagues. The cold December air as I left with a cardboard box of belongings. I didn't feel vindicated by my rise. Vindication implies personal injury requiring correction. This was never personal. Systems don't care about individuals. They function according to their design. I had simply redesigned the system. From my office window, I could see the next generation of financial infrastructure emerging across the skyline. New buildings, new companies, new leaders, all operating within frameworks that I was helping establish. My contribution wouldn't be remembered by name. It would be embedded in how business functioned. That was enough. More than enough.